Hello, my dear friends. Take a slow breath, let your shoulders relax, and allow yourself to drift into a quieter world tonight. As the room around you grows still, and the soft hum of the night settles over everything, we are going to take a calm and peaceful journey, far back into the past, into a place that once shaped the laws, the customs, and the strange human imagination of an entire civilization. Tonight, we are going to ancient Rome, but not the Rome of grand battles, or powerful emperors, or shining marble temples. No! Tonight we explore something different, something calmer, softer, and a little unusual. We will wander into the world of, strange and unusual punishments that existed in everyday Roman life, not in a frightening or dramatic way, but in a calm, reflective way, like slowly reading a forgotten scroll. Under the warm glow of a fading lantern, imagine for a moment that you are walking through an empty Roman street at dusk. The stones beneath your feet are still warm from the sun, and a gentle golden light falls across the tall columns and tiled roofs. The crowds have gone home. The markets are closing, and only the softest echoes remain. The sound of sandals brushing against stone, the quiet murmur of distant fountains, and the whisper of wind slipping through narrow alleys. In this peaceful moment, you begin to see Rome not as a place of noise and power, but as a quiet city full of stories. Stories of ordinary people who lived, worked, laughed, and made mistakes. Stories of rules that kept the city running, and stories of punishments that today might seem strange, or even unbelievable. But tonight, we will explore them slowly, softly, gently, without any distress, only calm curiosity. Because in ancient Rome, punishments were not always cruel in the way people imagine today. Sometimes they were symbolic, sometimes oddly creative, sometimes even humorous, and sometimes so strange that they tell us more about Roman society than any history book ever could. As the night around you grows deeper, let us begin our slow walk through these unusual customs and understand how an ancient world tried to keep order, using rules that now feel almost dreamlike. Take one more soft breath and step quietly with me into the first of these stories. As you continue your slow walk through the quiet Roman evening, the city around you seems to slip even deeper into stillness. The air grows cooler, the sky turns a deep shade of violet, and one by one small lamps begin to glow behind wooden shutters. The faint scent of olive oil, old stone, and warm dust lingers gently, mixing with the distant sound of water flowing through the aqueducts. You take another soft step across the uneven stones, and you feel as though time itself is slowing, settling, stretching into something calm and endless. In this peaceful moment, you reach a small, open square, and here begins our next story. A punishment the Romans once called the silent cage. The silent cage wasn't a cage in the way you might imagine. It wasn't made of iron bars or heavy chains. It was simply a small wooden platform placed in the middle of a busy street or marketplace, lifted slightly above the ground. A person who committed a very small offense, something like lying, cheating in the market, or speaking too rudely, could be placed on this platform for a few hours. They weren't hurt, they weren't tied, and nothing frightening was done to them. They simply had to stand, quietly, while others passed by. It was not meant to scare, but to gently remind people. Words and actions matter. And in a city as crowded and alive as Rome, standing in silence while life moved around you could feel surprisingly powerful. Picture it now. A young baker's apprentice stands on the little wooden plank, dust still on his clothes from flour and warm bread. His head is lowered not from shame but from reflection. Around him, the gentle rhythm of Roman life flows untouched. A woman bargaining for figs, a child chasing a pebble across the ground, a merchant calling out in a soft voice, arranging wool dyed in deep reds and soft yellows. And within all this gentle movement the boy stands still, not punished harshly, but simply asked to be quiet with his thoughts, to listen to the world he normally rushes through. The Romans believed that silence could teach what shouting never could. As the hours pass, the boy hears things he never noticed before. The soft tapping of sandals, the distant clink of pottery, the murmur of conversations blending like flowing water. There is something unexpectedly calming about being in the center of a moving world, yet untouched by it. The Romans understood this long before modern psychology. Sometimes reflection, not force, changes a person. And so the silent cage became one of the gentlest, yet strangely effective punishments of the ancient city. It turned a mistake into a moment of learning, and a moment of learning into a moment of peace. When the boy finally steps down from the platform, nothing is recorded, nothing is shouted, and no drama takes place. He simply returns to his bakery, but with a new softness in the way he speaks, a new care in the way he works, and a quieter patience in the way he treats others. The city goes on as it always has, unaware of the small inner transformation that has taken place within him. And perhaps that was the true purpose of such punishments, not to frighten but to gently nudge people toward kindness, awareness, and calm responsibility. You stand again in the quiet Roman square as this memory of an ancient custom fades like smoke into the evening air. A soft breeze brushes past you, carrying the distant scent of warm bread and sweet herbs. Tonight, Rome is peaceful, reflective, tender, and our journey is only just beginning. There are more stories, more unusual customs, and more forgotten traditions waiting quietly in the shadows of this ancient world. When you are ready, we will take another slow step into the next tale. As the gentle Roman night settles deeper around you, you begin walking slowly through a narrow street lined with quiet homes. Each doorway glows with the soft amber light of oil lamps, their flames flickering like tiny breaths. The air is warm and still, carrying the faint scent of fading rosemary and cool stone. You move at a peaceful pace, letting each step fall softly, as though the ground itself might be resting. The city feels less like a place now and more like a dream, a quiet memory from a world that once lived, worked, and learned beneath the same moon that watches over you tonight. In this timeless calm, we enter another forgotten Roman custom, one known as the cloak of shame. This tradition may sound harsh from its name, but in truth it was strangely gentle, almost symbolic. A silent way of reminding someone to reflect on their behavior. When a person behaved arrogantly, spoke too proudly, or disrespected someone without cause, the community sometimes gave them a long, oversized cloak made of plain wool. The cloak was not heavy, not painful, not humiliating in any cruel manner. It simply looked humble, simple, the opposite of pride. The person would wear it for a short period, often only a few hours, while continuing their daily tasks quietly among their neighbors. Imagine now a Roman man named Marcius, known for his loud voice and bold opinions, receiving this cloak after speaking too harshly in a debate at the Forum. At first, he finds the gesture almost amusing, but as he steps into the street wearing the long, plain garment, something begins to shift inside him. The cloak is soft and warm, but it carries a reminder, a whisper of humility. People who pass by do not laugh or mock him. Instead, they offer small, knowing smiles. Not unkind, not judgmental, just gentle, as though saying, "We all learn, and today is your turn." As Marcius continues his walk through the city, he notices things he usually ignores. The patient way a potter smooths clay on a turning wheel. The careful hands of a woman sweeping her doorstep before nightfall. The quiet dedication of an old man repairing a broken basket. These small acts of ordinary life remind him that his own voice does not always need to be the loudest. Sometimes wisdom is found in softness, in listening, in stepping back for a moment. For the Romans, the cloak of shame was never about embarrassment. It was about balance, bringing a person back into harmony with themselves and with the community. The simple wool cloth acted like a gentle weight on the conscience, urging the wearer to move slower, speak kinder, and reconnect with humility. Strangely enough, many people later described wearing the cloak as calming, almost grounding, like a quiet timeout for the soul. And when Marcius finally returns the cloak at sunset, he feels lighter, not because he removed it, but because he carries a new awareness within him. His voice softens, his opinions become easier, more thoughtful, and the community welcomes him back into daily life as though he never left. Because in Rome, learning was not a failure. It was a shared experience. You pause for a moment at the end of the street, breathing in the soft Roman night. The image of the simple wool cloak fades gently in your mind, leaving behind only the feeling it carried, a reminder that sometimes, even in the busiest of worlds, we all need a quiet moment to reset, to breathe, and to remember who we wish to be. The night grows deeper now, and the glow of distant lamps flickers like stars scattered across the stone city. There is more to discover, stories stranger, softer, and more forgotten than this. When you are ready, we will continue our slow journey through the ancient world. The Roman night grows even quieter as you walk deeper into the heart of the ancient city. The streets become narrower, the walls taller, and the lamps fewer. Everything feels hushed, almost sacred, as if Rome itself is drifting into a slow, peaceful sleep. You move like a gentle shadow between stone arches and wooden doors, feeling the coolness of the night rest against your skin. Somewhere far away, you can hear the faint echo of footsteps, soft and rhythmic like a heartbeat fading into the distance. Tonight our path leads us into a Roman dining house, a place where people once gathered not only to eat, but to talk, laugh, debate, and share stories after long days of work. But this time, something is different. This house is still, quiet, almost too quiet. Because now we explore one of the most bizarre, peaceful, and unexpectedly emotional Roman punishments ever practiced. A tradition known softly as the punishment of silent tables. Imagine this. A person who caused trouble during a public meal, maybe speaking rudely, arguing too loudly, or insulting a guest, was not yelled at, not beaten, not thrown out into the street. Instead, The community responded with a quiet but powerful gesture. For the next meal, that person would be invited again, but seated at a silent table. At this table, no one was allowed to speak. No words, no laughter, no small talk. Only soft chewing, clinking dishes, and the calm rhythm of breathing. Now picture a young Roman woman named Livia. She had mocked an elderly neighbor during a feast, making people uncomfortable. Instead of fighting her or punishing her harshly, the elders gently pointed her to a small table placed near the window for the next evening's meal. A bowl of warm barley stew sat waiting for her. Bread was placed neatly by her side. But the rule was simple: silence only. At first, Livia found it strange, even silly. She sat there feeling watched, feeling awkward, unsure of what to do with herself. But as the minutes passed, something inside her began to soften. The silence wrapped around her gently, like a slow-moving fog. Without conversation to distract her, she noticed things she usually missed. The texture of the bread, the warm aroma rising from the bowl, the faint glow of lantern light on the wooden table. She listened to the steady hum of life in the room, the clink of cups, the shuffle of sandals, the quiet breaths of people enjoying their meal nearby. The silence was not a prison. It was a mirror. And in that mirror, she saw her own actions more clearly than any argument or scolding could have shown her. By the time Livia finished eating, she felt calmer, humbled, almost relieved. Silence had done what anger could not do. It had helped her reflect. And afterwards, something beautiful happened. A few neighbors walked up to her quietly and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. A silent gesture of forgiveness. There were no speeches, no lectures, just presence, just calm. The Romans believed that silence could restore balance. It could cool tempers, mend pride, and repair wounds without ever raising a voice. A silent table wasn't a place of shame. It was a place of reset, a space where someone could find their way back to themselves. As you imagine this scene, you hear the soft murmur of the dining house behind you. A warm lantern flickers outside the doorway, pulling shadows gently across the stone floor. You step back into the cool air, feeling the same lesson settle into your own heart. That quiet moments often teach the deepest truths. The night deepens even further, and Rome becomes quieter than before. Somewhere ahead, more strange, forgotten customs wait for us. Some peaceful, some odd, all touched by the softness of time. The night in ancient Rome stretches softly around you, slow and peaceful, as if the whole city has settled into a dream. The moon casts a pale silver glow on rooftops and quiet streets, and every step you take feels like you are walking deeper into time itself. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of old stone and distant hearth fires. It fills your lungs gently, calming your heartbeat, calming your thoughts. As you move through the darkened alleys, you notice a small group of people gathered around a dim lantern. Their voices are low, soft, almost whisper-like, and their shadows dance quietly against the wall. You step closer, not to interrupt, only to watch, only to listen, because tonight we explore one of the strangest and most symbolic Roman punishments, something they called the carrying of shadows. This punishment wasn't painful. It wasn't loud. It wasn't frightening. It was a reflective, quiet, almost poetic. It was meant for people who broke trust, not in a grand criminal way, but in small hurtful ways that fractured friendships or disturbed community peace. Someone who spread rumors, someone who betrayed a friend's secret, someone who started unnecessary conflict. Instead of locking them away or shouting at them, the Romans gave them a quiet task. They were asked to walk through the village at dusk carrying a lantern behind them. Not in front, not above, behind them. And as they walked, their shadows stretched long in front of them, sliding across the stones, sometimes thin, sometimes wide, always changing shape with every step. People watched from doorways, but they did not mock. They did not call out. The rule was to watch silently, letting the image speak for itself. Imagine a young Roman man named Cassius. He had whispered things about a neighbor that were not entirely true. Small comments that spread quickly, creating tension and stirring unnecessary worry. When the elders heard about this, they did not punish him harshly. Instead, they handed him a lantern and gently instructed him to walk the main road at sunset. He held the lantern behind him, feeling the warmth of the flame at his back. And then he saw it. His shadow stretched across the earth, leading him forward. As he walked, Cassius realized something. The shadow was not frightening. It was familiar. It was him. A reminder that actions, even small ones, move ahead of us, shaping how others see us before we even arrive. His shadow moved before he did, just like his words had moved before the truth. He walked slowly, listening to the soft crackle of the flame, the distant sound of voices, the gentle hush of wind brushing against clay walls. The street was calm, peaceful, wrapped in golden twilight, and every few steps he looked down at the silhouette of himself stretching forward, reminding him that trust once broken always moves ahead and must be repaired with care. By the time he returned the lantern to the elders, his expression had changed. He understood why the punishment existed. It wasn't to shame him. It was to help him reflect, to help him see, to help him walk differently in the future, with more honesty, more kindness, more awareness. And the next morning, in true Roman fashion, the neighbors greeted him warmly, as if the shadow he carried last night had already begun to fade into forgiveness. The community moved on, healed, calm again. Walking away from the gathering, you feel that lesson echo gently within you. Every step forward carries pieces of us, our choices, our words, our gestures, and sometimes all it takes to understand ourselves is a quiet walk with our own shadow. The Roman night deepens again. The streets fall silent except for the soft crunch of your footsteps. New mysteries wait ahead. Stranger customs, softer stories, forgotten punishments shaped more by reflection than fear. The Roman night grows even softer now. The torches burn lower. The wind drifts gently between marble pillars, creating a faint humming sound, like a lullaby whispered by the city itself. As you take a slow step forward, you enter a peaceful courtyard where moonlight rests quietly on smooth stone floors. A few elder Romans sit in a semicircle, their robes folded neatly, their faces calm and thoughtful. But in front of them, there is one empty wooden chair. There is no rope, no chains, no guards, just an empty chair. And tonight we explore one of the strangest and most emotional punishments in ancient Rome, something they called the punishment of the empty chair. This punishment wasn't meant for criminals. It wasn't for thieves or rebels or violent men. It was for people who failed to fulfill their duties to others. A man who forgot a promise. A wife who neglected her family traditions. A friend who didn't show up when needed. A neighbor who ignored a shared responsibility. Not because they were cruel, but because they were careless. For the Romans, emotional neglect and even small things mattered deeply. The empty chair was a gentle reminder, a silent mirror. Imagine a woman named Livia, kind, warm-hearted, but lately overwhelmed. She missed several gatherings where her presence mattered. When someone needed her help, she wasn't there. Not intentionally. She simply drifted away from responsibilities, lost in her own world. So one evening, the elders invited her to sit quietly in the empty chair. No one scolded her. No one raised their voice. Everyone simply sat in silence. The silence was not cold. It was reflective. The meaning was simple. This is what it feels like when you are absent. Your absence leaves a space, a gap, a quiet emptiness that others feel. Livia looked around the circle, seeing the faces of people who cared about her, people she had unintentionally disappointed. The quiet made her see what words never could. She sat there for many minutes, breathing slowly, feeling the cool night breeze brushing against her arms, listening to the faint crackle of the torches. Every passing moment felt like a soft reminder that presence matters. Eventually, one of the elders stood up and gently placed a hand on her shoulder, a gesture of reassurance, a gesture of forgiveness. No punishment, no humiliation, just understanding. Livia stood, feeling lighter than before, as if the silence had washed something clean inside her. When she walked home that night, she didn't feel judged. She felt renewed. She felt aware. She felt connected again. Now imagine yourself standing near that courtyard watching the scene unfold. You feel the warmth of the torches, the softness of the night air, the quiet power of a community that heals through reflection, not violence. As the group slowly disperses, the empty chair remains in the center, faintly glowing under the moonlight, reminding everyone who passes that presence, our simple act of showing up, can be one of the strongest forms of love. You breathe deeply. The night becomes even calmer, and you walk forward ready to explore the next hidden corner of Roman punishment, the strange, the gentle, the symbolic. Another story waits in the shadows, and when you're ready, the Roman night grows quieter now. The sky has settled into a deep shade of indigo, and gentle clouds drift slowly over the sloping rooftops of the city. The streets echo with soft footsteps, sandals brushing lightly over stone, as people finish their final tasks before sleep. You walk deeper into the heart of Rome, guided by the warm flicker of wall-mounted oil lamps. Their trembling flames paint gentle shadows across each building, making the ancient city feel alive in a slow, soothing rhythm. As you reach a secluded courtyard, you notice something unusual. A long stone wall, curved like the half-moon, smooth and polished, almost glowing under the torchlight. This is the Whispering Wall, one of Rome's most unique and strangely calming punishments, reserved not for violent criminals, but for those who had allowed their anger or harsh speech to harm others. A man who spoke too sharply with his family. A woman who let impatience slip into her words. A merchant who insulted a customer. A neighbor who gossiped too quickly. Not evil people, just human people, who sometimes forgot the weight of their voice. Tonight, a young Roman man named Aelius has been brought to the wall. He isn't a bad person, but lately frustration has been shaping his tone. He has spoken harshly to those he loves, not because he wanted to, but because life felt heavy. For Romans, words could wound the spirit just as a blade could wound the body. So instead of punishing with pain, they taught with reflection. Alias steps forward and places both hands on the cool stone of the whispering wall. The wall is curved for a reason. When someone speaks into it, their own voice gently returns to them, soft and slow, like a distant echo. He is asked to do only one thing: speak gently into the wall. No shouting, no confessing, no speeches, just whisper. So Alias leans close and softly whispers, "I want to be kinder." The wall breathes his words back to him, softer, slower, warmer, as though the stone itself understands. This echo is the punishment, not a harsh lesson, but a gentle reminder of how his voice can sound when spoken with softness instead of anger. He whispers again, this time a little calmer. "I will try to change." The wall returns the words with tenderness, wrapping them around him like a quiet embrace. The night wind spreads the sound, making it feel almost sacred. Nearby, the elders watch silently. They aren't judging him. They are simply witnessing a moment of self-awareness, a moment of peace. Alias continues to whisper, each time feeling lighter, as though each soft word washes away a rougher one from the past. The wall reflects his gentleness, until finally, he begins to understand the power of his tone, the shape of his voice, the way his words touch others. After several minutes, one elder steps forward and gently lays a hand on his shoulder, signaling that his time is complete. Alias steps back, his eyes softer, his breathing calmer. The wall seems to glow faintly, as if satisfied with another small healing. As you watch this scene, the peaceful atmosphere settles into your own chest. You feel the air shift, slower and more relaxed. You breathe with the city. You feel the calm Rome offers. The calm that comes not from harshness, but from understanding. You walk away, leaving the whispering wall standing quietly in the corner of the courtyard, patiently waiting for the next soul who needs its silent comfort. And as the torches dim even further, the night invites you to continue this slow journey into the secret punishments of ancient Rome. Another strange, gentle story waits in the darkness ahead. As the warm Roman night deepens, you continue your slow walk through the ancient city. The lamps now burn lower, stretching long golden shadows across the narrow roads. The sound of chatter fades far behind you, leaving only the gentle hum of crickets and the distant splash of a fountain somewhere in the dark. You follow a quiet stone path that curves between tall buildings. Their windows glow softly, like sleepy eyes preparing to close for the night. Rome is settling down, and so are you. Ahead, you see a small doorway carved into a round building. Above the doorway, lit by a faint torch, is an engraved symbol. Two simple sandals side by side. This place is known as the Room of Silent Sandals, a strange and peaceful punishment used for one specific type of person. Those who never stop talking. Not bad people, not criminals. Just people whose constant words drowned out the calm of others. Neighbors who filled every corner with chatter. Merchants who spoke without listening. Visitors who forgot what silence felt like. Rome believed silence was sacred, a gentle space where thoughts could breathe, and where a person could hear their own heart again. So instead of punishment by force, they created a room that taught quietness, Tonight, a Roman woman named Livia has been brought here. She is kind, joyful, and warm, but she speaks all day, everywhere, about everything. People like her are the color of the marketplace, vibrant, energetic, but sometimes even warmth needs to rest. A soft-spoken elder greets her at the door. No anger, no shame, just a gentle nod, the kind that says, "Come inside, child, this is a place to breathe." You follow her into the round room. Inside, the atmosphere changes instantly. The floor is covered in thousands of soft leather sandals, not to wear but to walk on, so that no footstep ever makes a sound. The walls are curved and padded with smooth cloth, absorbing every small noise. Even the flames of the lamps seem quieter here, as though they know this room prefers calm. In the center is a wide stone seat. Not a throne, not a chair of judgment, just a place to sit, to be still, to listen. The elder gestures for Livia to step onto the sandals. As she walks, the only sound is the soft brushing of leather beneath her feet. Noitu, no footsteps. Just silence that feels almost warm. Her task is simple. Stay in the room until her thoughts become softer than her voice. There is no time limit. Some stay a few minutes, some stay an hour, some return again because they find the quiet comforting. Livia sits on the stone seat. At first she fidgets, her mind filled with all the things she wants to say. Stories, opinions, memories, jokes. The silence feels new to her, like stepping into cold water. But slowly, the room begins to work. The silence presses gently around her, not heavy but soft, like a blanket laid across her shoulders. She breathes deeper. Her shoulders loosen. Her heartbeat steadies. You watch her as she closes her eyes, letting the quiet carry her. In this room, silence isn't empty. It is full of space. Space for thoughts to settle, for emotions to find their place, for breath to move slowly and freely. Minutes pass like drifting clouds. Her mind begins to calm. Her constant words fade to a distant whisper. And for the first time in a long while, she hears something she has forgotten, her own inner stillness. When she opens her eyes, they look different, softer, more peaceful. Like someone who has rediscovered a missing part of themselves. The elder approaches quietly and gives a nod. She has learned her lesson, not through fear, not through pain, but through silence. A reminder that listening is as important as speaking. As Livia steps back out into the night, the world feels softer to her. The breeze carries her hair gently. The distant lamps flicker like little stars. The quiet now feels like a friend she wants to keep. You walk beside her for a moment before your paths separate. Rome continues to breathe slowly around you, preparing to reveal yet another strange, serene punishment in its long-forgotten history. The Roman night deepens further as you leave the room of silent sandals behind. The streets have grown even quieter now. Only the soft wind moves between the old stone walls, carrying the faint scent of warm olive oil from a distant kitchen and the earthy smell of ancient dust that has settled here for centuries. The golden glow of lamps becomes rarer, flickering like tired fireflies at the edge of sleep. Every step you take brings you deeper into the parts of Rome that most people never see. The parts that come alive only when the world grows silent. You follow a slightly sloping path that curves gently downward. The stones here are older, smoother, worn by the footsteps of thousands of Romans who walked here long before your time. And tonight, you are about to witness a punishment that was not harsh, but strangely beautiful. A punishment for people who forgot one simple thing: gratitude. Romans believed that every person carries a long trail of footsteps behind them, Moments, choices, lessons, kindnesses they received, but never paused to acknowledge. Some people walk so fast through life they stop noticing the hands that helped them, the doors that opened for them, the blessings that quietly protected them, and so Rome created a place to remind them. The path leads you to a tall archway. Above it is carved a single Roman phrase, omnis passus memoratur. Every step is remembered. This is the entrance to the Hall of Forgotten Footsteps. As you step inside, the temperature changes immediately. A cool wave of stillness washes over you like entering a cavern that has not been disturbed for lifetimes. The hall is enormous, wider than any Roman bath, taller than any courthouse. Its ceiling disappears into darkness, supported by pillars so thick you would need many people holding hands to wrap around one. The floor is the most unusual part. Every inch of it is covered with thousands upon thousands of soft clay tiles, each one shaped like the imprint of a human foot. No two tiles are the same. Some are small, like a child's, some large and strong, like a soldier's. Some delicate, some crooked, some full of cracks. These tiles do not represent people. They represent moments, the unspoken help, the invisible guidance, the forgotten kindnesses that carried someone forward. Tonight, a Roman man named Marcellus has been brought here. He is not cruel, not greedy, just someone who forgot to appreciate the support that shaped his life. He believed everything he had, he earned alone. He forgot the teacher who stayed late for him, the neighbor who fed him when he was young, the friend who covered for him during illness, the relative who guided him quietly. Rome did not judge him, but it wanted him to see. A silent guardian leads Marcellus into the center of the hall. His footsteps echo softly as he walks, the last sound he will hear before the hall begins its quiet magic. When he reaches the middle, the guardian steps back and touches a stone on the wall. And suddenly, the entire hall begins to glow. The clay footsteps beneath him warm gently, then radiate a soft golden light that spreads outwards like ripples in calm water. Tile by tile, step by step, memory by memory. The hall awakens. Each glowing footprint belongs to a moment of hidden kindness he received in his life. As the gold spreads, Marcellus watches with widening eyes. Some footprints shine brighter than others, the ones that carried him through the hardest parts of his past. Some shine softer, representing small, almost invisible acts from strangers he never thanked. He steps forward onto a tile and the hall responds. A soft echo plays in the air, not words, not voices, but a feeling. The memory rises around him like mist. The gentle hands of an older woman setting food on a table, the warm laughter of a childhood friend lifting him after a fall, the steady voice of a mentor who believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. He steps again. Another glow, another memory, another reminder that he never walked alone. The hall is not punishing him. It is showing him the truth he forgot. As he walks deeper, the light becomes warmer, almost tender, like the feeling of being embraced by the past. A slow realization washes over him, the kind that melts pride and softens the heart. You can see his shoulders lower, his breath deepen, his eyes grow glassy with emotion. For the first time in many years, Marcellus whispers a word that feels new to him. Gratias. Thank you. He says it again, this time louder, this time with tears. The hall hears him, and the golden lights begin to dim peacefully. like candles being blown out by a gentle breeze. One by one, the tiles return to their quiet clay form. Marcellus steps out of the hall a changed man, softer, humbler, awake to the truth that every life is carried by countless silent footsteps behind it. As he disappears into the night, you remain standing at the entrance, letting the calm air wash over you. The hall closes slowly, sealing its memories once more. Rome whispers to you again through the wind, guiding you toward yet another forgotten punishment, one that waits deeper in the night. The Roman night feels cooler now, as if the city has inhaled deeply and slowed its heartbeat. The sky above is a darker shade of blue, nearly black, sprinkled with tiny silver stars that look like soft pinholes in a velvet curtain. The moon hangs low, pale and wide, as though watching your journey with calm curiosity. Each step you take echoes faintly through the empty streets, blending with the distant rhythm of water trickling down a hidden aqueduct. You have left behind the hall of forgotten footsteps, but its golden afterglow still lingers in your thoughts. Rome, however, does not let travelers rest for long. Every lesson leads to another. Every corner hides another forgotten tradition. And tonight, the city wants to show you one of its most peculiar punishments. Not violent, not cruel, but deeply psychological. A punishment reserved for a crime that every human commits at least once in their lifetime. The crime of hiding the truth from oneself. Romans believed that the greatest lies were not the ones told to others, but the ones whispered to one's own heart. A small narrow street takes you deeper into the old districts of the city. The lamps here burn lower, their flames dancing slowly like tired spirits. You eventually arrive at a wide circular courtyard, carved entirely from pale stone. The air is cooler here, almost cold, and the silence feels thick, like a soft blanket wrapped around your shoulders. At the center of the courtyard stands a single structure, a round stone chamber with no windows, no carvings, no decorations. Just smooth walls and a single wooden door. Above the entrance, a simple phrase is etched in Latin. Veritas non taxit. Truth does not remain silent. This is known as the Chamber of Unspoken Truths, a place where Romans sent people who refused to face their own inner reality. Unlike other punishments, no chains were used here, no guards. The punishment was not physical, it was emotional, mental, almost spiritual. Tonight, a young Roman woman named Lyria is brought to the chamber. Beautiful, intelligent, admired. Yet she is trapped in a lie of her own making. She pretends to be strong, unaffected, unbreakable, but deep inside, she carries fears she never speaks of. She hides her loneliness behind smiles, her grief behind laughter, her insecurities behind pride. Rome sees what she cannot admit. Not telling the truth to yourself is the slowest kind of suffering. A silent keeper opens the chamber door. Lyria hesitates, her breath catches slightly, but she steps inside. You follow quietly. The door closes behind you with a soft, heavy click. Immediately the world goes still. Inside, the chamber is perfectly round. The walls curve smoothly like the inside of an eggshell. The air feels dense yet strangely warm. At first there is nothing. No furniture, no torches, no sound. Only darkness. Then a faint glow rises from the floor. Soft, white, gentle. It does not light the room, it lights the emotions. The chamber was built with a rare Roman trick. The walls respond to the heartbeat. As Lyria stands silently, her heartbeat grows louder in the chamber's stillness. With each breath she takes, the room responds. Shadows swirl gently as if they are forming shapes, feelings, memories. Slowly, almost tenderly, the chamber begins revealing her truth. First comes an image of her childhood, a moment of deep loneliness she always tried to forget. Then the face of a friend she secretly envies. Then the memory of an argument she pretended didn't hurt her. All these unspoken emotions float around her like soft mist, swirling slowly in the dim light. Lyria tries to look away, but the chamber pulls the truth back into her sight, gently, not harshly, not to punish her, but to free her. Tears fill her eyes, not from pain, but from release. The weight she has carried for years slowly melts from her posture. Her shoulders drop, her breath deepens, her mask begins to fall away. The walls brighten slightly, responding to her honesty. The chamber senses when a person finally allows themselves to be real. She whispers, barely audible, "I am tired of pretending." The room glows brighter. The mist dissolves. The shadows vanish. The truth has been spoken, not to others, but to herself, and that is enough. After several long minutes of silence, the wooden door creaks open again. The keeper appears, saying nothing, simply stepping aside. Lyria walks out slowly, her face calm, softened. No punishment remains, only clarity. As she disappears into the Roman night, the chamber returns to darkness, waiting for its next visitor. Perhaps someone who has been avoiding their own truth for far too long. You step back into the courtyard. The wind is colder now. Rome guides you once more, whispering that another strange punishment awaits in the next chapter of your journey. Deeper, darker, and even more surreal. The night in ancient Rome grows warmer as you walk deeper into the quiet districts, where the footsteps of the day have faded into memory. The moonlight spills softly across cracked stone streets, and the distant hum of a few night merchants slowly dissolves into silence. Rome feels gentler at this hour, as if the city itself has finally exhaled. Behind the chamber of unspoken truths, a narrow pathway leads toward a small plaza, oddly bright for this time of night. As you step closer, you see the glow of several torches placed in a perfect circle. Their flames flicker slowly, each one moving with the same steady rhythm as though breathing together. At the center of this torch-lit ring stands a single wooden chair. It is not elaborate, not decorated, not threatening, just a simple chair. Yet something about it feels strangely heavy, as if countless invisible stories rest upon its seat. This is known as the Chair of Public Whispers, a Roman punishment used not for thieves or traitors, but for those who hid small truths from society. Tiny lies, tiny pretenses, tiny masks. A person guilty of this punishment was not beaten, not locked away, not humiliated. Instead, they were asked to sit in this chair while the world around them whispered. The idea behind the punishment was simple. If someone hides the truth of who they are, Rome will reveal it for them, gently, indirectly, through the voices of others. As you watch from the shadows, a young Roman man named Corvinus is brought to the plaza. His steps are hesitant, his nervous eyes shifting around as though every torchlight exposes a part of him he does not want seen. Corvinus is well liked in the city, but only because he carefully hides every part of himself he thinks others may judge. He wears confidence like armor, charm like a mask, and silence like a shield. But Rome knows. Rome always knows. Two keepers guide him to the chair. They do not touch him, they simply gesture. Corvinus sits slowly, trying to maintain his proud posture. But the chair feels different from what he expected. The wood is warm, almost alive, as if absorbing his heartbeat through its surface. Around the circle, silent citizens begin to gather. Men, women, elders. Some he knows, some he doesn't. Their expressions are soft, calm, almost expressionless. They are not here to judge, only to whisper. The keepers raise a single hand and the plaza falls into an almost supernatural stillness. Then one by one, the whispers begin, not accusations, not insults, not secrets. Just gentle observations, things people noticed but never said. He always looks tired, even when he smiles. He pretends he does not care, but he does. He wants to be accepted, yet he fears rejection. He hides kindness behind jokes. He listens to everyone, but no one listens to him. Each whisper drifts through the warm night air, brushing Corvinus like soft feathers. His eyes widen, not from shame, but from recognition. These are truths he never admitted, yet they echo inside him with painful clarity. He tries to look away. He tries to straighten his posture. He tries to hold the mask in place, but the whispers continue. Not louder, just steadier. A slow rain of truth. You notice something subtle. With every whisper, the torches burn a little brighter, as if absorbing honesty from the crowd. Their flames grow taller, warmer, and Corvinus's shadow grows clearer on the stone floor beneath him. Soon he stops resisting. His shoulders sink. His breathing changes, slower, deeper, almost relieved. For the first time, he looks less like a confident Roman and more like a human being who has finally stopped hiding. One final whisper drifts across the plaza. It is okay to be seen. Corvinus closes his eyes. The torches dim. The keepers step forward and gently nod. The punishment is complete, not through pain but through revelation. Corvinus rises from the chair, looking lighter, softer, as though a burden he carried for years has quietly melted away. He walks alone into the night, but he walks honestly. As he disappears into the shadows, the plaza shifts again. The torches lean inward slightly, forming the same ring. Silently waiting for the next person who hides too much behind silence. Rome's quiet breath surrounds you again. Another punishment awaits, stranger, deeper and hidden behind an ancient gate at the far end of the district. The night in ancient Rome grows deeper now, as if the city has settled into a slower rhythm meant only for wandering souls and quiet stories. You move through a narrow corridor lined with old stone walls that still hold the warmth of the day's sun. The sound of your footsteps becomes softer, more distant, as though the world around you is falling into a dream. Ahead, a faint glow spills through a wide archway. A soft, pale light that feels neither warm nor cold. As you step closer, you enter a long chamber known in ancient whispers as the Hall of Forgotten Echoes. This place was not meant for criminals, not for rebels, not for enemies of the state. It was made for those who carried lingering hurt, the kind that settles quietly under the skin. The sort of pain that grows heavy when left unspoken. Here the Romans believed that buried sorrow could become dangerous, not to others but to the person holding it. So they created a strange, gentle punishment, where the goal was not to shame someone, but to free them. The hall stretches endlessly, lit by hundreds of tiny oil lamps placed along the floor. Their flames burn without flickering, as if the air itself forgets to move. The silence is thick, almost velvety, wrapping around you like a heavy cloak. At the far end of the hall stands a woman named Laelia. She is not a criminal. She is not dishonest. She is not cruel. Her offense is something Rome did not take lightly. She held on to grief for too long. Grief for a friend she lost. Grief for the life she wanted but never reached. Grief which she hid so deeply even she forgot it was there. The Romans believed that hidden sorrow weakened the spirit, made one unfocused and distorted decisions. So Laelia was brought here, not to suffer, but to finally listen. A gentle keeper guides her to the center of the hall. He does not speak. He simply places a thin bronze bowl in her hands. Inside it is nothing, just emptiness. Laelia stares at it, confused. Then the keeper gestures for her to place the bowl on a small pedestal at the center. When she does, the hall changes, almost imperceptibly. The oil lamps burn a shade brighter, and the air becomes cooler, like the first breath before dawn. And then, the bowl begins to echo. At first, the sound is faint, soft vibrations like distant humming. But soon the echoes sharpen, forming fragments of words. Tiny, broken memories rising from the emptiness she has carried for years. A voice she once knew, a laugh she loved, a moment she regrets, a goodbye she never said. The echoes do not speak clearly. They do not accuse. They do not hurt. They simply return. Laelia's eyes widen and her breath trembles. The bowl glows faintly, capturing every small sound her heart has tried to forget. A single tear slips down her cheek, not heavy sorrow, but gentle release, like the first drop of rain before a calm storm. The hall responds instantly. Its quiet walls vibrate ever so softly, almost like a sigh. As each echo rises and fades, she looks lighter, and younger, and more alive than she did before. You notice that the Romans watching from the shadows are completely still. They do not interrupt, they do not judge. They only witness, because witnessing, they believed, was sometimes all a person needed. When the last echo dissolves into silence, the bowl becomes ordinary again, just a simple bronze vessel. Laelia steps back, her shoulders relaxed for the first time in years. There is no applause, no declaration of freedom, no dramatic ending, only stillness, and the quiet sound of someone finally letting go. Laelia walks slowly toward the exit, each step lighter than the one before, as if her feet barely touch the ground. Her shadow follows, softer, no longer weighed down by unspoken memories. When she disappears into the night, the hall grows dim again, patiently waiting for the next soul who has forgotten their own echo. You turn toward the opposite side of the chamber, where another doorway glows faintly. Beyond it lies a punishment stranger than anything you've seen so far, one that touches dreams rather than memories. The night in ancient Rome drifts into an even deeper stillness as you walk through a narrow corridor leading out of the Hall of Forgotten Echoes. The air feels cooler now, carrying the scent of burning olive oil from distant lamps. Your footsteps fall softly against polished marble, and with each slow step, you feel as though you are walking deeper into a dream shaped by centuries of forgotten stories and quiet punishments, meant not for cruelty, but for reflection. Ahead, a faint golden glow spreads from beneath a carved wooden door. The carvings are delicate, almost fragile-looking, depicting scenes of people reaching toward stars they can never touch. Romans called this place the Chamber of Unfinished Dreams. Unlike the harsh arenas or the cold judgment halls, this room was created for a very specific kind of person. Someone who lived with the weight of incomplete desires. People who always planned, always wished, always hoped, but never quite moved their dreams into the world. They weren't criminals. They weren't rebels. They weren't dangerous. They were simply lost inside themselves. The Romans believed that when dreams were held for too long without action, they began to rot, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And if a person carried too many of these unfinished dreams, they became distant, unfocused, and unable to live fully. So the Romans developed a gentle punishment, one that looked more like emotional awakening than correction. When the wooden door opens, you step inside. The chamber is circular with a high dome ceiling painted in muted shades of blue and gold. Hundreds of small silver threads hang from above, each glimmering softly like strands of moonlight. The room has no harsh light, no sharp edges, only soft, diffused glow that feels calm, like a late evening sky just before sleep settles in. In the center of the room stands a young Roman man named Aelius. His crime is subtle but deeply human. He dreamed endlessly but acted never. He wished to become a poet but spent his days doing nothing. He imagined great journeys but never left the city. He pictured a life full of meaning, but lived quietly in the shadows of his own hesitation. The priests of the chamber believed that dreams, when left unfinished, turned into invisible weights, trapping the soul. So Aelius was brought here, not to be punished with pain, but to confront the reflection of everything he abandoned. A silent keeper approaches him, holding a thin reed pen and a blank scroll. He places them in Aelius's hands without a word. Aelius looks down at the scroll, empty, untouched, waiting. The keeper walks away, leaving him alone in the vast chamber. Slowly, the strands of silver light begin to descend from the ceiling, one by one, until they surround Aelius in a shimmering circle. And then, they begin to move. Each silver strand shifts and curves, shaping itself into the faint outline of a forgotten dream. The room fills with soft, whisper-like images. A younger version of Aelius holding a scroll of poetry. A vision of him standing at the harbor, preparing to board a ship he never dared to take. A fleeting moment of him presenting his work before a crowd that only existed in his imagination. The images are gentle, never harsh, never accusing. They simply show him what he once wanted to be. Aelius's breath trembles. He watches his dreams, not as failures, not as losses, but as possibilities he once loved deeply. The silver threads glow brighter, and each one wraps softly around the reed pen in his hand, almost guiding him. He lifts the pen slowly, hesitantly, as though afraid it might break. And then, he writes, not perfectly, not confidently, but honestly. The chamber responds instantly. The dome ceiling glows with warm golden light, and the silver threads rise upward like mist returning to the stars. Aelius continues writing, filling the scroll with the first real words he has written in years. His shoulders relax, his eyes soften, and he breathes out slowly, as if releasing the weight of 10 forgotten dreams at once. When he finally stops, he looks peaceful, not triumphant, not proud, but calm, as though he has finally met a version of himself he lost long ago. The keeper returns, takes the scroll gently, and bows his head. There is no judgment, no applause. Only acknowledgement. Aelius walks toward the exit of the chamber, his steps steady, his face illuminated by a soft confidence. He has not completed his dreams, not yet. But he has started. and sometimes starting is all a person truly needs. As he disappears through the doorway, the chamber grows quiet again, waiting for the next soul who carries the weight of unfinished dreams. The glow dims, the silence deepens, and your journey through ancient Rome's strangest and most gentle punishments continues, toward a place where the mind itself becomes the arena. As you leave the chamber of unfinished dreams behind, the corridor ahead grows wider and more echoing, filled with the low hum of distant torches burning softly against ancient stone walls. The night feels heavier now, not dark in a frightening way, but in that calm, deep manner that usually comes when the world is ready to fall asleep. Your footsteps drift slowly forward, and soon you arrive at a massive archway carved with delicate patterns of flowers and quiet faces. This place is known as the Hall of Silent Voices. Unlike the other chambers, this hall was reserved for a very unique form of punishment. A punishment not for physical crimes or broken laws, but for something far more subtle. The act of speaking too much, too recklessly, or too cruelly. In ancient Rome, words carried immense power. The Romans believed that careless speech, gossip, hurtful remarks, or unkept promises were not just social mistakes. They were wounds that could travel through a community like invisible fire. A harsh sentence spoken at the wrong moment could destroy friendships, ruin reputations, or break families apart. So the people who misused their voice were brought here, and here they faced silence. When you step inside, the hall opens into a grand circular space, much larger than any chamber you have seen so far. The walls are polished marble, pale as moonlight, yet covered with thousands of tiny carvings, small mouths, some open, some closed, some whispering, some wounded. Each carving represents a different kind of voice, a truth spoken, a lie told, a promise kept, a promise broken. But the hall itself is utterly silent. Noitu, no footsteps. Not even the sound of breath seems to travel far. In the center stands a young Roman woman named Marcia. Her punishment is not for theft or violence or rebellion. It is for something ordinary yet deeply human. She spoke too freely, too quickly, and too harshly. Her words were like small storms, not meant to destroy, but sometimes they did. In a moment of anger, she gossiped about the wrong person. A friend lost their honor because of her careless tongue. It wasn't intentional, not fully, but the harm was real. And so Marcia stands inside the Hall of Silent Voices. The keepers guide her to a circular stone platform in the center. They do not tie her. They do not mock her. They simply step away and let silence settle around her like a soft blanket. For several long moments, Marcia does nothing. She waits. She tries to speak, perhaps a whisper, perhaps a sigh, but her voice falls flat, swallowed instantly by the hall. Even she cannot hear herself. The silence is so deep that it feels alive. Slowly, the hall begins its work. The carvings on the walls shimmer softly, glowing like tiny stars. Each little mouth opens and releases faint, ghost-like whispers, not of punishment, but of remembrance. They are the echoes of all the voices Marcia has hurt with her words. But they don't shout. They don't accuse. They simply appear and fade, like distant memories rising up through water. Marcia watches them move, each whisper forming a gentle, translucent figure before dissolving into the air. One looks like her friend, another like someone she barely knew but once wounded in frustration. The hall isn't here to shame her. It is here to make her listen. The silence deepens further. And for the first time in her life, Marcia truly hears it. In that silence, she feels the weight of her voice. How soft it can be. How beautiful it can be. How dangerous it can be. Tears slip quietly down her face. They aren't tears of fear or guilt. They are the tears that come when someone realizes something deep about themselves, something they had ignored for too long. After what feels like an eternity, Marcia finally speaks again. Just one word. A whisper. "Sorry." The hall responds. A warm golden light spreads across the carvings as if the stone itself is smiling softly. The whispers fade. The silence becomes calm instead of heavy. And for the first time, Marcia's voice echoes properly, gently, beautifully. Her punishment is complete. Not because she was silenced, but because she finally understood the power of her own voice. As Marcia steps off the platform and leaves the hall, her footsteps sound clear and natural, as if the hall is giving her speech back as a gift. Once she is gone, the hall becomes still again, waiting patiently for the next person who must learn the delicate art of speaking with intention, kindness, and meaning. As you leave the hall of silent voices behind, the air shifts gently around you. The corridor that follows is different from all the previous ones, softer somehow, warmer, and touched by a faint scent of something earthy, almost like wet soil after rain. You walk slowly toward a narrow passage framed by creeping vines carved into the stone. Their leaves curl like they're alive, reaching out as if inviting you to step closer. You enter, and the path gradually widens until it opens into a stunning, unexpected space. A secret underground garden, but not a garden of bright colors or blooming beauty. This is something older, more patient, more haunting. The Romans called it the Garden of Waiting Shadows. This wasn't a punishment for criminals who committed violence or betrayal. This place was for a very different kind of wrong. The crime of abandoning responsibility. Those who ran away from duties, from promises, from people who depended on them. Those who left others waiting, hoping, needing, were brought here. The garden stretches far beyond what you expect. A vast circle surrounded by obsidian black walls that shine faintly in torchlight. In the center grows a single enormous tree, ancient and twisted, its bark dark like night, its branches reaching outward like open arms. But instead of leaves, its branches carry countless ribbons made of shimmering white fabric. Each ribbon represents a person who was left waiting, and underneath that tree stands a man named Lucius Varro, a gentle-faced Roman with tired eyes. Lucius was known throughout his district for making promises he never kept. Not out of cruelty, not out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of failure, fear of effort, fear of responsibility. Every time someone asked for his help, he said yes, even when he knew he wouldn't follow through. He promised to repair a neighbor's roof. He promised to help his aging mother. He promised to pay back debts. He promised to support a friend in court. And every single time someone waited for him, hours, days, months, but he never came. The Romans believed that waiting was a sacred wait, because every moment a person waits is a moment stolen from their life. And so Lucius stands here. A soft mist floats across the garden floor like drifting breath, cool and silver. The torches flicker in slow waves, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers around Lucius's feet. At first there is silence, deep and echoing. But then something begins to move. Shadows emerge, not sharp or frightening, but soft, human-shaped outlines formed from mist. One by one they float toward Lucius, each shape representing someone he left waiting in his life. A woman's shadow stands with arms crossed, weary from years of disappointment. A small shadow shaped like a child looks up at him with quiet confusion. An elderly shadow leans heavily, as if tired from carrying burdens alone. They do not speak. They do not accuse. They simply stand beside him, their silent presence heavier than words. Lucius tries to look away, but the garden pulls his gaze back. It makes him feel every moment someone waited for him. Every hour his absence caused harm. Every disappointment he created by offering empty promises. He whispers, "I didn't mean to," but meaning isn't the point. When someone waits, time is lost permanently. The tree rustles softly and the white ribbons begin to glow. Each ribbon trembles gently, as if remembering the person it represents. Some ribbons shine brightly, promises broken to those who truly needed him. Others flicker weakly, small commitments he ignored without thought. Lucius's breath becomes shallow. The garden doesn't punish him with pain or fear. It punishes him with realization, a punishment far deeper. After a long, heavy silence, the shadows begin to retreat. They do not vanish completely. They simply step back, giving Lucius space to breathe again. The tree lowers one glowing ribbon, letting it fall softly at his feet. It is the ribbon of his mother, the person who waited the longest. Lucius kneels, trembling, and ties the ribbon around his wrist. A vow, a promise he will not run from again. As he does, the shadows relax, their forms growing lighter, softer, almost peaceful. The mist thins out, and the torches burn steady instead of flickering. The garden has accepted his realization. Lucius stands, his eyes different now, clearer, heavier, more awake. He walks slowly toward the exit, passing the shadows that watch him leave in quiet forgiveness. When he steps out, the vines behind you curl inward, sealing the garden again, waiting for the next soul who must learn the cost of leaving others waiting. As you step away from the garden of waiting shadows, a gentle hush settles over the corridor. The air grows cooler, and each footstep echoes with a soft, rhythmic pattern, almost like a heartbeat traveling through stone. The torches along the walls burn with a dimmer flame now, their glow forming long, wavering bands of amber light that stretch ahead like a path meant only for you. You walk slowly, letting the stillness sink deeper into your mind. The Romans built these underground chambers not merely to punish, but to teach, to reflect, to confront the parts of the human soul that often hide in silence. And now you approach the next of these ancient lessons. At the end of the corridor sits a circular stone door, engraved with countless overlapping lines, almost like ripples in water. At the very center is a single symbol, a small ear carved into marble. The Romans called this place the Chamber of Echoing Regret. The door opens without a sound, as if the room has been waiting for ages for someone to step inside. You enter slowly, thus, and the world shifts again. The chamber is vast, wider than any hall you've seen so far. Its ceiling curves high above like the inside of a giant dome, and the entire surface, walls, ceiling, even the floor, is made of polished limestone that gleams like a pale moon. It is so smooth, so reflective, that the faintest whisper bounces back from every direction. This room was built for one purpose: to make a person hear the weight of their own actions, not with the shout of a judge, not with the anger of a crowd, but with the quiet echo of their own voice. In the center stands a woman named Aurelia Cassia. Her face is calm but tired, her eyes distant as if she has spent a lifetime avoiding truths she didn't want to confront. Aurelia wasn't known for violence or theft or betrayal. Her crime was something more subtle, more common, but to the Romans, deeply harmful. Aurelia was careless with her words. She didn't lie with intention, nor did she speak with cruelty, but she never realized how deeply her careless sentences cut others. She made promises without meaning them. She gossiped without thinking. She spoke lightly of people who trusted her. She shared secrets she shouldn't have. And every time she dismissed it with a simple shrug. It doesn't matter, it's just words. But words matter more than most people ever understand. In Rome, honor was carried in speech. Reputation lived in the mouth of others. One careless comment could change a life forever. So Aurelia stands here. Around her, the chamber hums with quiet vibration. She whispers something under her breath, a soft apology to someone she once hurt. And the sound travels outward, touching the walls. A moment later, that same whisper returns. Clear, sharp, unchanged. Her own voice comes back to her exactly as she said it. She stands still, listening. Then another echo emerges, but this time it is not what she said now. It is what she said years ago. A careless comment she made about her sister's appearance. A small joke she shared about a friend behind their back. A secret she once repeated in a moment of boredom. Each sentence returns in her own voice, floating around the chamber like fragile threads of air. Aurelia tries to cover her ears, but her hands cannot silence what is inside her own mind. The echoes bounce around her in slow waves, not hurting her, not shouting, but gently reminding her of every wound she caused without noticing. She whispers again, "I didn't mean it." The chamber responds with her exact voice. "I didn't mean it." But it follows that echo with another. The sound of someone crying after hearing her words. Aurelia freezes. Her breath becomes unsteady. The chamber continues its cycle, weaving her past sentences together with the reactions she never saw. The tremble in a friend's voice, the silence of someone who felt betrayed, the quiet disappointment of a loved one. The echoes are not angry. They are not meant to punish. They are meant to reveal, to make her finally understand that words, even light ones, can carry heavy shadows. Minutes pass, or maybe hours. It is hard to tell in a place where time seems to dissolve into sound. Eventually, the echoes soften. The chamber grows quiet again. Aurelia opens her eyes slowly, her face calmer now, but different. Wiser, heavier, more aware. She whispers a final sentence. "I will speak with care." Her words travel through the chamber, circle the dome once, and return to her unchanged. A promise sent back as confirmation. The door behind you opens. Aurelia steps forward, her expression peaceful as though she finally understands the true weight of her voice. You follow her out of the chamber. When the door closes, the ripples in its stone surface settle, and the echoes fade into silence once more. As you leave the chamber of echoing regret behind, the corridor narrows once again. The air grows warmer, and the faint glow of torches paints golden trails along the ancient stone walls. Your footsteps sound softer now, as if the ground itself has learned to walk gently with you. A peaceful stillness settles in the air, not silence, but a kind of calm expectation. Ahead, the path bends slightly to the left, and from around the corner, a soft rustling sound emerges. Not loud, not threatening, just the quiet brush of cloth against stone. When you step forward, the corridor opens into a long, beautifully crafted hall, its floor made entirely of smooth, milk-white marble. polished so perfectly that the reflected light looks like water rippling beneath the surface. This place was known to the Romans as the path of quiet footsteps. It was not a chamber of noise or fear. It was not meant for humiliation or pain. This hall was built for a different kind of punishment, one that required patience, discipline, and deep reflection. In Rome, some people carried a unique flaw. They could not stay still. They acted before thinking, spoke before listening, moved before noticing. A restless mind to the Romans was dangerous, not only to others but to the person themselves. And so the path of quiet footsteps was created, a place where motion itself became a lesson. In the center of the hall stands a man named Marcus Varro, a young Roman merchant known not for cruelty or deceit, but for haste. Marcus was always in a hurry. He made deals without reading contracts, spoke without measuring consequences, moved through life without observing the people he brushed past. He wasn't malicious, just impatient, unfocused, constantly rushing toward the next moment without respecting the one he stood in. The magistrates decided he needed a lesson in stillness, not to punish him, but to reshape him. Marcus stands at the beginning of the marble path. He wears simple, unornamented clothes. His shoulders rise and fall with a mixture of anxiety and determination. For someone who could not stay still, this hall represents the greatest challenge of his life. A quiet voice echoes from the far end, the voice of a priestess guiding the ritual. Walk with silence. Walk with thought. Walk without haste. Let the steps teach you what your mind refuses to learn. Marcus takes his first step. The marble beneath his feet is cool, smooth like flowing water. As soon as his heel touches the floor, a gentle vibration travels across the hall. This hall is not like the others. The Romans engineered it with extraordinary precision, each stone designed to sense weight, pressure, and speed. If Marcus walks even slightly too fast, the floor will hum. If he shifts his balance without mindfulness, the hall will whisper a soft warning. If he drags his feet in impatience, the sound will echo through the entire chamber. Marcus tries to slow himself. 1 foot forward. Pause. Breathe. Another step. Pause. Breathe again, but old habits cling tightly. Halfway through the hall, his steps quicken. Just a little, barely noticeable, but the marble notices. A faint hum rises from beneath him, soft, subtle, like the distant sound of a flute touched by wind. It isn't punishment. It is guidance. Marcus stops startled. The hum fades. He exhales, closes his eyes, and tries again, this time more carefully. As he walks, something strange begins to happen. The hall grows brighter, not from torches, but from reflections bouncing off the marble. Every slow, deliberate step creates a ripple of white light, spreading outward like the rings formed when a pebble touches still water. It is mesmerizing, peaceful, almost hypnotic. Marcus begins to understand the rhythm. The hall is teaching him, not through pain, but through patience. Step, breath, silence, reflection. The slower he moves, the gentler the hall becomes. The marble beneath his feet no longer feels cold. It feels alive, warm, almost supportive. The echoes soften into a calming hum, like a lullaby sung by the stones. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like moments. Marcus is no longer rushing toward the end. He is simply present, existing, breathing. For the first time in his life, he is aware of himself, aware of the world around him, aware of the quiet beauty in moving slowly. When he finally reaches the end of the hall, he stops. Not because he is finished, but because he has nothing left to chase. The priestess approaches him gently. You have learned what haste hides. The world is clearer when the mind is still. Gus, and walk with purpose, not speed. Marcus bows his head. His face, once tight with impatience, is now calm. His eyes softer, his breath deeper. As he exits the hall, the path of quiet footsteps falls silent again, waiting for the next restless soul who needs to learn the art of slowness. As Marcus walks away from the path of quiet footsteps, the corridor around you slowly changes again. The stone walls soften into a warmer shade. The torches flicker more gently and the air grows cooler with a faint scent. Something floral, something earthy, something ancient. You follow the narrow passage until a soft breeze touches your face, carrying with it the scent of old leaves, wet soil, and quiet stillness. Ahead of you, an archway opens into a space that feels entirely different from the cold, echoing chambers before. You step forward, and suddenly the ground beneath your feet turns from stone to soft earth. The space expands into a circular outdoor courtyard, a hidden sanctuary beneath the open Roman sky. This place is known as the Garden of Silent Shadows. It is beautiful, but not the lively beauty of blooming flowers or bright sunlight. The garden feels like twilight frozen in time. Tall, slender trees cast long shadows across the ground. Their leaves barely move, as if even the wind respects the quietness of this sacred place. Stone pathways twist between patches of grass, and small lanterns glow faintly from the ground, their flames steady and motionless. This garden was not a place of violence. It was a place of thought, of reflection, and sometimes one of quiet remorse. In Roman times, there was a unique category of people: those who spoke too much, those who revealed secrets carelessly, those who used words without weighing their consequence. Not liars and not traitors, just people who didn't understand the power their voice carried. And for them, the Garden of Silent Shadows was created. At the center of the garden, you see a young woman named Claudia Sabina. She stands beneath a tall cypress tree, her posture straight, her eyes lowered. Claudia was known throughout her neighborhood as the friendly whisper. She loved to talk, not with malice, but with enthusiasm. She repeated things she heard, shared stories she wasn't meant to share, spread details that were not hers to carry. Nothing she said was dangerous, but little by little, her words caused small fractures between families, friends, and neighbors. The magistrates did not want to punish her harshly. They simply wanted her to understand the weight of a single sentence. So she was brought here to stand alone among the silent trees until she could hear the sound of her own thoughts. The priest who oversees the garden speaks softly from a distance. Words are seeds. Some bloom into trust, others into sorrow. Only the quiet heart can choose which seeds to scatter. Claudia is not tied. She is not restrained. She is simply still. In the Garden of Silent Shadows, the punishment is silence itself. She is asked to remain without speaking, not for hours, sometimes not even for a full day, but long enough for her mind to settle, long enough for her voice to soften, long enough for her heart to understand the echo of every word she has ever shared. You watch as Claudia breathes slowly, her chest rising and falling in a gentle rhythm. This place has a strange magic, the kind that doesn't reveal itself immediately but grows quietly within the soul. As you stand in the garden, you begin to notice things you hadn't before: the distant hum of insects, the faint crackle of lantern flames, the rustle of leaves when a bird shifts its weight. Tiny details that normally disappear under the noise of the world. You can almost feel why the Romans built this place. Silence isn't empty. It isn't the absence of sound. It is a mirror, a space where your thoughts grow louder, clearer, more honest. Claudia stands still for a long time, Minutes pass like the drifting shadows of clouds across ancient stone. Her restless energy slowly melts away. Her breathing grows deeper. Her eyes soften. She begins to understand what she had never noticed. That speaking is easy, but listening truly is much harder. After some time, the priest steps closer, stopping a few feet behind her. "Claudia, what have you learned?" He asks, not sternly but gently. She doesn't rush. She doesn't babble. She doesn't fill the silence with nervous words. She waits. She breathes. Then she speaks, just one sentence, quiet and steady. "I have learned that silence teaches what noise hides." The priest smiles faintly. Her punishment is complete, not through fear but through understanding. You watch as Claudia walks out of the garden. Her steps calm, her presence softer, her voice now something she carries with intention rather than carelessness. And as she leaves, the garden of silent shadows returns to its natural stillness, waiting patiently for the next person who needs to learn the quiet weight of every word. As you leave the garden of silent shadows, the air grows warmer again, and the soft earth beneath your feet slowly turns back into smooth, ancient Roman stone. Marcus walks a few steps ahead, his torch glowing faintly, casting long, slow-moving shadows on the corridor walls. There is no hurry here. Every step feels like a gentle drift, like walking through a dream filled with distant echoes of forgotten times. After a short, quiet walk, the hallway widens into a low, circular chamber. The ceiling is domed, though not high, and its surface is painted with pale colors that have faded over centuries. Gentle shades of cream, dusty gold, and soft rose tones. It feels less like a courtroom and more like the inside of a calm temple. This place is known as the Chamber of the Feather. To the Romans, a feather symbolized lightness, not just in weight, but in truth, in intention, in the heart. They believed that a person's actions should carry the same lightness as a feather, harmless, gentle, balanced. And when someone acted with unnecessary cruelty, arrogance, or harshness, they were brought here to learn softness. In the center of the chamber sits a man named Gaius Varro. He is in his late 40s, strong, stern-faced, with a posture shaped by years of authority. Gaius was a household master known for discipline and order, but sometimes in his pursuit of perfection, his tone became sharp, his expectations heavy, and his kindness overshadowed by demands. His servants complained not of physical cruelty, but of emotional weight. Words that were too cold, commands that were too hard, expectations that never softened. The magistrates didn't wish to punish him severely. They simply wanted him to experience the feeling of carrying something light, and understanding why his voice should be the same. A priest enters the room and places a small wooden tray in front of Gaius. On the tray rests a single pure white feather. He looks at it with confusion, as if he expected chains or loud accusation, but here there is only silence, a feather, and the echoes of his own breathing. The priest speaks softly. "A feather weighs nothing, yet it teaches everything. Carry it, hold it, understand it." Gaius lifts the feather carefully. His large, rough hands seem almost too heavy for something so delicate. He turns it slowly between his fingers, watching the fine strands shimmer in the torchlight. For the first time in a long while, he realizes how heavy his own presence must feel to those around him. The task is simple. He must hold the feather steady in his palm, without crushing it, bending it, or letting it fall. A task so small, yet a man so rigid finds it strangely challenging. As he holds the feather, he must walk a slow circle around the chamber. No fast steps, no stiff movements, He must walk with the same softness the feather demands. You watch him rise. This tall, powerful man moves awkwardly at first, his steps too firm, his shoulders too tense. The feather trembles. He pauses, breathing in. He tries again, this time letting his posture relax just a little. His steps soften, his shoulders lower. The tension melts slowly like wax near a candle. Minute by minute, movement by movement, Gaius begins to change. Not in a dramatic way, not suddenly, but gently, like the slow warming of morning light on cold stone. He makes his way around the chamber once, twice, 3 times. By the 4th circle, the feather rests calmly on his palm, unmoving, balanced, peaceful, as though it has accepted him. And in that calmness, a realization forms in his eyes.
He understands what the magistrates meant.
That power is not only in strength but in gentleness. That authority is not only in commands but in tone. That respect cannot be demanded. It must be shaped slowly, kindly, like a feather in the wind. The priest steps forward once more. Gaius, what does the feather teach you? Gaius stares at it for a long moment. His voice, usually loud, now comes out soft and almost fragile. That I have been heavier than I needed to be, and that the world moves easier when touched with lightness. The priest nods, and with that simple understanding, Gaius's punishment is complete. He leaves the chamber with the feather still in his hands, and not as a burden, but as a reminder. A small symbol teaching a big truth. And as he walks away, the soft golden torchlight fades behind him, and the chamber of the feather becomes still once more, resting quietly, waiting for the next troubled heart that needs to learn gentleness.